The Cincinnati Reds will have to find a way to replace one of its most irreplaceable players, as Tyler Stephenson got some bad news from that MRI.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Reds. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name's Stephen Offenbaker. His name's Jeff Carr. We are lifelong Cincinnati Reds fans. We love baseball. We love the Reds. We've been podcasting about this team for a combined 14 seasons or so. We love talking Reds baseball. We love talking Reds baseball with you. On today's show, bad news for Tyler Stephenson. We hear catcher number one is going to be down for a while after an MRI revealed a bit of an injury. We're going to talk about what that means for the Reds, how they go about replacing him, if that's even possible, and what that means for the roster as well. We'll be talking about Jose Trevino, who now has the spotlight on him front and center, as he is going to be looked to be catcher number one, at least for the near future. We're also going to get into your questions and comments, and Jeff has a rant, as you might be surprised to learn. Little disrespect to the old GABP has Jeffrey fired up. We're going to get into all of that on today's show that is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets back if your first $5 bet wins. That's over at FanDuel.com right now. All right, Jeff, right now where we need to start is talking about Tyler Stephenson, catcher number one. MRI reveals an oblique strain, which if you're not familiar with that region of your body, those are in your abdomen, abdominal muscles around the ribs. So think about twisting, leaning forward, sit-ups, crunches, turning, batting, moving. All are problems right this very second.
Yeah, we've talked about a lot this offseason that the Reds have a luxury in that they have one of the best hitting catchers in the major leagues. The Reds now fall in line with much of the rest of the league, where they have a solid defensive catcher that's a bit of a question mark at the plate, Jose Trevino. We'll get into him in a little bit. But the Reds are going to need to figure out a way to replace Tyler Stephenson's production in the lineup. And a lot of that is going to hopefully be covered up by the fact that Matt McLain and CES are both healthy. But let's make no mistake about it. Tyler Stephenson was one of the most valuable players on this team last year. He had a 112 OPS plus. He had a 444 slugging percentage. He did have 66 RBIs and 19 home runs. We lamented the fact he was one home run away from making like five guys having 20 home runs last year. But he was constantly hitting the ball very well. We talked about a lot last season. He would get a little bit unlucky, but his hard hit metrics were good. So all around, he was playing well and he was healthy. And so now we enter into another season where we're talking about Tyler Stephenson having a bit of health issues, health questions, because an oblique strain, Steve, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, it's not really something that just goes away. Like, you don't hit a point where you're like, it's gone. We're good. We're clear. We're free.
This is going to be the first true test of how the kinder, gentler Cincinnati Reds medical staff is going to earn their reputation for this year, and how they're interacting with the coaching staff and how Tito Francona is going to handle things like this. Because there is an opportunity, if you manage Tyler Stephenson correctly right now, from this second forward, 6 weeks from now, this could all be in the rearview mirror and we could be okay. If they don't, they have to protect Tyler from himself. This is the thing that I say all the time, right, Jeff? They need to keep him shut down. We're talking, already hearing timelines, 2 to 4 weeks. I'm saying 6. Let's say 4 to 6. Let's look at the 6-week window and say that, we're going to lose the first month-ish of the season from Tyler Stephenson. Let's say April 1st, he's allowed to come back. Let's just say that right now. And they don't typically do this. And I've said it over and over again. I've said it with Jonathan India's injuries over multiple seasons. You rush these guys back with certain injuries, muscular injuries, soft tissue injuries especially, and you never let it truly fully heal, and it's going to continue to just bite you all year long. So I can accept the loss of 6 weeks of Tyler Stephenson right up front in order to have him for the rest of the season. And I really think that's how he should be handled, because if they don't protect him from himself, and 2 weeks from now, he's like, it feels good. Let me get in there. Let me do it. By week 3 to 4, he's already going to be feeling the bite again. And then we run into where players don't say anything and they play poorly and everybody's asking what's wrong. I think you have to take a very conservative approach now, while you kind of have the luxury to do so early in the season, not in the middle of a pennant race. Let the weather get a little better. Let things get warmer. Let your body be able to loosen up. Handle him appropriately now, so that this is not a big deal come April, May.
And to be clear, conservatively, that thinking that way, 6 weeks, that would put him returning about April 28th against the Cardinals, whenever the Reds return home from playing the Rockies for 3 games out in Denver. I really would like to see that happen, because I think back, and I know this is a bit of a different scenario. We're not talking about a pitcher, we're talking about a catcher. But I think back to the problems that Johnny Cueto, sorry, I was mixing up a bunch of different players in my mind, that Johnny Cueto had with oblique injuries early on in his career. Now, different scenario. He has, that funky delivery where he twisted a lot. He needed that motion in order to do his thing. Tyler Stephenson doesn't necessarily need to twist and turn a whole lot, but you are talking about power and in his swing, and what's that going to do to that, and his ability to control the run game, which wasn't very good last year either. So if you're going to put a bit of a governor on that, you should just make sure that that is completely gone. I don't want him playing at 90%. I want him playing at 100%. So I'm with you. I think that we can officially mark it down. If you're looking to mark it down, the Locked On Reds podcast supports a conservative timeline for Tyler Stephenson. We want him to be 100% healthy whenever he's back on the field, because we're talking about a guy that we have advocated for all offseason should be getting a contract extension. There is nobody behind him coming up through the system until you get to Alfredo Duno, and Alfredo Duno isn't old enough to drink yet in the United States of America. So we're talking about a dude that, even if you fast track him, we might be talking about 2026 before he's ready. So they have got to see what they can do with Tyler Stephenson long term. This isn't just a problem for right now. And I know that we had this wonderful conversation, if you checked out this morning's episode, about how the outfield isn't just a problem for right now, it's a problem for the future. So's the catcher position, especially if you take Tyler Stephenson out of it.
100%. These are the two weakest leaks in the position player pool, and they really can't afford to absorb any more injuries in either spot. So you look at Tyler and what we're talking about, especially if we just focus in on the beginning of the season, this first month, and say that you're going to get Tyler Stephenson back April 1st, as an example. Last year, for just the beginning of the season, he played in 19 games, 231, 338, 415 with 3 home runs. He gets off to pretty good starts. If that gave him an OPS plus adjusted for just the month at about 115, 15% better than league average as far as that goes. If Jose Trevino, who we're going to talk about here in a little bit, can give you league average for a month, and that's not outside of the realm of possibility. He's been in the 90s before his all-star season for the Yankees. He was in the 90s. Then I think that really minimizes the amount you're missing Tyler, because then you get him back, season's starting to heat up, everything's fine. So I'm not ready to panic.
Good catcher at that point, which a lot of teams love. Yeah,
I'm not ready to panic, I think is what I'm saying. I understand. I get it, guys. I've been a Cincinnati sports fan my whole life. I get that you see stuff like this and your gut reaction is, well, damn it, here we go. Once again, it's we can't have nice things. I saw that in the chat already. Somebody said we can't have nice things. I get why we all feel. There you go. Thank you. Your name. I feel the same way from a fan standpoint. We've all been through this all our lives, but let's try and take a breath. Let's try and look at it for what it is. It's a relatively non-crazy injury that can be handled, that can be managed, and it's still spring training. We're still in the middle of March. There's time to pivot and adjust and recover. So yeah. I'm taking my hand. I'm taking my hand off the panic button. It's right, pulling it back.
Right.
And let's just breathe.
And I don't think that a Tyler Stephenson removed from the lineup for what roughly amounts to like 20 games completely derails the postseason aspirations for this ball club. I will say this: you and I both continually do our like predictions and things like that as we look at spring training, as we look at the beginning of the season and stuff like this, and we have all of our fingers crossed, our toes crossed, we're crossing our eyes in some cases, we're doing everything, knocking on wood, trying to make sure that we don't talk about the fact that spring training injuries do happen. And this ball club doesn't ever seem to leave Goodyear without somebody hurt. And I know that we still keep getting optimistic updates, though nothing concrete, when it comes to Spencer Steer. And that would go a long way into softening the blow of Tyler Stephenson being out. But with Tyler Stephenson being out, it just feels like more of the same. Last year felt like the Reds were missing half their roster when they came back from Goodyear. I really hope we do not continue to talk about stuff like that, because that's where things get a little bit frustrating. As optimistic as everybody is with Terry Francona, I don't think this derails anything just yet, but it does put it on a little bit more of a knife's edge as far as the optimism goes, especially when you talk about the guy that's going to be getting more playing time. We mentioned it just a little bit. Kind of want to dive into who Jose Trevino is and the value that he's going to provide to the Reds now that he's going to get a lot more playing time coming up next. Look, even though the news is grim, I'm still bullish on the Reds' chances this season, even though FanDuel isn't. They haven't really changed the over-under on the win total for the Reds yet, but it's 78.5, and I'm telling you, that's a slam dunk. I've already taken the over. You should take the over on FanDuel. Plus, with conference championship season really wrapping up this weekend, you're going to be able to turn $5, your first $5 winning bet, into $200 in bonus bets. And then you'll be able to put that $200 in bonus bets towards some great futures like the Reds win total over under of 78.5. I've smashed the over on this. You should smash the over on this as well over on FanDuel. The Reds keep getting disrespected, man, and you can make some money off of that. Terry Francona is going to get them there, and you should go over to FanDuel.com and take the over on 78.5 wins for your Cincinnati Reds. I believe that they will make it even with the bad news here today. That's FanDuel.com. They're the official sportsbook of Locked On. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Reds your first listen, your second listen when we, have 2 episodes in one day, and all of the listens in between. We appreciate our everydayers out there. Thank you for joining us. If you're not an everydayer, you can become one by hitting that subscribe button here on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app. And jump down into the comments section as we are live here today, answering questions a little bit later on and answering some takes and things like that a little bit later on here in today's show. But I wanted to continue the conversation because without Tyler Stephenson in the fold, you now move everybody up. Jose Trevino going to get a lot of playing time now. I was kind of penciling him in for around 50 games or something like that already. Now you could probably pencil him in throughout the season, maybe 60 to 70 games. But I do take solace in this, Steve. Like, you go back to 2022, which was kind of his best year in the bigs. That year, he was really good at what he is really good at. We are not talking about a guy that's going to hit cleanup. We are not talking about a guy that's going to hit in the top half of the lineup. But we're talking about a guy that's going to keep the home plate area on lockdown. He is a guy that is very good at blocking the plate, which is key with a lot of guys on this roster, whether you're talking about Hunter Green's splitter, Nick Lodolo's breaking ball, Nick Martinez everything, because all of his stuff moves, and Brady Singer as well with his new cut fastball and all of his breaking pitches. It's going to be key that he keeps that plate blocked. But also, we're talking about an elite framer. A guy that is going to even take what Tyler Stephenson took a step forward last year. Jose Trevino is already 3 steps ahead of him when it comes to framing. And I think that is going to provide a different value and hopefully mitigate some of the loss of Tyler Stephenson.
Yeah, that 2022 season that you're talking about, Trevino played in the most games in one season that he has played. He played in 115 games that year. To your point on his defense, he won a Gold Glove that year. So that tells you right there that he can do it behind the plate and be the backstop that the team needs him to be. Offensively, you're right. He's not going to light up the world. That year, probably his best year, you're right. 248, 283, 388. Nothing crazy. But I'll take that for a month. I'll take that slash line for a month and really good defense at the same time. Again,
the
easy reaction is to panic, and I'm not going to panic. I'm okay. This is okay. It's not great, but we're okay.
I was thinking about this because I feel like every year during opening day, there's a hero that we don't expect. There's a hero that we did not pencil in. There's a guy who goes off on opening day for some reason, whether it's Nick Martini hitting 3 home runs, it's Javier Valentin hitting a walk-off home run, things like that. There's somebody that does something big that we weren't expecting to do it. I'm penciling in Jose Trevino as that guy. Though now I kind of messed that up because now I expect him to do something that I don't expect. So maybe there's a paradox there. But I really feel like this is a tailor-made situation. Tyler Stephenson being out, we're probably going to miss him for almost an entire month. Oh, boy, who's this Trevino guy that we got from the Yankees for Fernando Cruz? Watch out. Opening day, we might see some fireworks from Jose Trevino.
Maybe you should just stick with Frybox predictions for opening day. Let's not look. I want the Reds to have a blowout win on opening day. I don't need any heroics.
Well, he could be part of that. He could have like 5 RBIs in a blowout.
All right, I'll take that. I'll take that. You stay away from the predictions. You focus on the Frybox, brother. Look, here's one more thing to keep in mind with Trevino. I think that it's going to be nice to have somebody that slots in that might be a little bit immune to the, I don't know if you can call it pressure, Jeff, having to step into the role, suddenly finding yourself being at least momentarily catcher number 1. This is a guy that just came from the New York City pressure cooker, and he did just fine in New York with that. So
you win a platinum glove in New York, you win it anywhere.
This is correct. So for me, I think we enjoy the defense. I think we hope for Tyler Stephenson to get back as quickly as possible. And, the other guys on this team, we hope step up and fill a little bit of that small, tiny void that's going to be created in the lineup, at least with offensive production.
I saw you throw this comment up earlier, but shout out to Ben. Great point. Hit Trevino 8th or 9th and enjoy the defense. That's what we're looking for here. And just a quick note. I don't think we'll see them a lot, but the guy that's probably going to back him up is Austin Wynns. We've seen Austin Wynns last season. We've seen him a decent amount of time in the spring training.
You said that wrong.
Yeah.
It's doubles machine. Austin Wynns. Come on. Put some respect. You, Jeffrey Carr, you need to stop with this disrespect of
Austin
true Reds legends.
Doubles machine. That's too many syllables. Give me Austin 2 bags. That's what I want to hear. But yeah, and I see that Will Banfield has actually played the most time at catcher this spring training. I think he's like 3rd on the depth chart. It's either him or Michael Troutwine. But honestly, if you're getting into that point, maybe you just go claim somebody to be the backup. But I mean, we've seen Austin Wynns. It's not, I do not prescribe, and I've seen some folks talking about in the comments, go claiming Luke Maley if he gets cut.
That's an interesting point.
With Austin Wynns.
I was just say, will there be somebody, if they can go claim somebody that's a cut at the end of spring, that's been in somebody's camp, that at least is something I'm sure Nick Kral's looking at. Luke Maley, I don't know, but understand whoever that guy is probably somebody that comes in and then gets cut as soon as Tyler Stevenson's ready to go, unless they're willing to go down to Louisville. And so it's not something that you get crazy excited about. Yeah, listen, a meaningful catcher is not coming out of the end of spring cuts, guys. It might be somebody with major league experience, but it's going to be somebody well past their prime. So just understand that. It's worth looking around for. It's worth watching for. And here's, we got really far into the show already before the Get Tucker chant starts up. Branch, I see you, I hear you, but it'll be that.
Need him for one game a week, whoever it is.
It's that guy that, maybe we've heard of, but that's kind of past their prime. So will it be better than Austin Wynns? I don't know, but it is at least worth it's worth taking a look when the cuts start happening to see if there's somebody that you think gives you just a little bit more than Austin Wynns would, which I don't understand because he hits a double every time his bat touches the ball. But
and just
you got to look.
Yeah. But like, just looking at the schedule, like the only thing that I really think the Reds could like perceivably make a case that they do need to sit Trevino and give him a little bit of a break is, I mean, they have ample off days. I don't even know that there is a point. Like you can maybe make the point that April 23rd playing at 1:10 down in Miami after playing at 6:40 the night before, but there's no like long stretch of just lots and lots of baseball where it feels like they're going to need a backup at some point. Maybe you're talking about 3 starts from whoever it is that's backing up Jose Trevino during this time period. So I'm not that worried about that. But you know what? We talked about Jose Trevino a lot more than I thought we would. So I'm going to start off the next segment with this rant. So just everybody get your popcorn ready.
Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out and online shopping and entertainment, it's very easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just another budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. If you can't catch us here on YouTube live or when you can always take us on the road. We're on every audio platform out there pretty much for podcasts. So you can take us in the car, take us to the gym, get the audio feeds. We'll talk Reds baseball with you that way because we love talking Reds baseball with you. I know the comment section is probably already going to have got me on this, Jeff, but twice there in the beginning, I said April 1st for Tyler Stephenson. I meant May. Time is a construct for me right now. It's early here. I'm still.
We did that thing where I knew what you were talking about. Yeah, I knew what you were talking about and didn't correct me.
I knew exactly what I meant. Let me tell you. But Jeff, you were perusing some news that ticked you off a little bit, and I yield the floor to you.
And news is strong, but it was an article in USA Today. And it was something that the Inquirer, they kind of did the whole little, let's put it in the echo chamber and we'll share about it and all this other stuff. But we have this mentality nowadays that there's content, there's news, there's reporting, and then there's opinion. There's columns and things like that. And opinion has even stretched to rankings and lists and things like this. And there was this writer, I'm not even sure I want to shout the guy out, but I know that that's like the nice thing to do. But anyway, I hated what he had to say because he listed the top MLB stadiums and he listed it 1 through 28. He left the Rays and the A's off of it because they're playing in minor league ballparks. So, all right, we're not going to, obviously those are at the bottom, so we're not worried about it. 1 through 28. He put Great American Ballpark 26th. He said that Great American Ballpark is the 3rd worst ballpark in America. And I'm like, okay. All right, let's go. What's the reasoning behind it? He didn't give any reasons. There was no explanation. It was just Great American Ballpark, 28th, then 29th, and then or 26th, and whatever it was. 3rd worst ballpark in America, and they couldn't be more wrong. I have been to other ballparks, Steve. I have seen some other ballparks. There is no way, and it was on this list, that the Miami Marlins ballpark is ahead of Great American Ballpark. I don't know what they're on at USA Today, but they couldn't be more wrong. There are stadiums in this league, Steve, where you cannot see the field from the concourse. The bottom level of Great American Ballpark, just about 100% of the area you can watch the game from. There are stadiums in this league, Steve, that don't have the food that the Great American Ballpark has worked so hard over the last couple of years to really improve its offerings on. You can get yourself a great burger from 50 West, a great shareable item over at Frybox. You can get all the ballpark staples. And oh, by the way, we got Skyline. Nobody else got that. But we also have a great beer selection. But on top of that, Steve, this is the thing that gets me the most. Is that when you go to other ballparks in America, there are some ballparks that are so corporate, retail focused that they forget about the essence of their team. They forget about the history of their franchise. Not Cincinnati. Cincinnati loves its team. When you go to Great American Ballpark, it screams Reds. And I just and I keep like singling out this stadium for some reason, but there's other stadiums that do this. But Miami, you could go to Miami's ballpark, and there are certain parts of the ballpark that if you just spend your entire time in that game, you would have no clue who the home team is, because they don't have the word Marlins anywhere except for the very front entrance when they welcome you to Marlins Park. And then you don't have the Marlins logo in a lot of different spots. The Great American Ballpark atmosphere is one of the top 5 atmospheres. I dare say top 3 atmospheres in all of America. And I include football stadiums. I include basketball and hockey arenas. Great American Ballpark's top 3. And I think it's ridiculous that they printed this where they list out the ballparks and they don't give you the reasoning for their incompetence when they put them so low on the list. It's absolutely reprehensible.
You know, Jeff, I leave Hawaii multiple times a year to spend time at Great American Ballpark, and it's one of my favorite places on the planet. So I am right there with you. I feel like you need to send a transcript of what you just said over to the fine folks at USA Today and let them know exactly what you think, because it really is a terrible take. And I agree with you. But let's do this. Let's get into this comment section.
Just get everybody for the comments now. That's what it was.
Jeff Carr is a fun Jeff Carr. That was great. I think you should send the transcript of that over to USA Today. That's awesome. Let's get into the comment section. If you had questions, comments back earlier that you want us to revisit, throw them back in the chat. I would really appreciate it. I see this from Chris, and I'm going to just tiptoe on it for a second because Jeff, you and I talked about this in prep today. But Chris says that you guys talked about this, wants to know what I think about the possibility that Tyler Stephenson hasn't gotten an extension because of what went down with Devin Mesoraco. I do not. I think there are a lot of reasons why that we haven't seen any more extensions, and it's an in-depth enough conversation, Chris, that it's going to be a segment on a show next week. So that answer is coming for you. But I did see that, and because Jeff and I talked about it, just wanted to touch on it briefly for a second because there is a conversation to be had there.
Suffice it to say, like a quick synopsis of what the segment will be is like, there's a lot that has to do with the CBA expiring at the end of 2026 that I think the Reds have just really been reticent to give long-term contracts because of. And then you also look at some other extenuating circumstances with Tyler himself and with the rest of the roster that there's definitely a lot of factors that play into it, not just simply a singular one-on-one conversation where Stephenson gave them a number and they said, well, there's certain things that we're worried about with you specifically. I think that Nick Krall's got so many other considerations that's why we haven't seen that, even though I thought, and you thought, and we all thought that this was a perfect offseason for him to get an extension during.
It certainly was. And I have lots of things to say about the overall extension process right now. So we'll definitely have some fun with that. Your Name wants to talk about Alexis Diaz. How's he looking this spring? Do we have any updates? What have we heard? He has begun throwing. So there's that.
Yeah, he pitched a couple of days ago. He's gotten into a couple of games. I think he's going to be fine. We're talking about a relief pitcher. Those guys take much less time to ramp up than starters do. But yeah, I think he's going to be okay. And to quote statistics in 2 games would be meaningless, although he hasn't allowed a run. So that's kind of nice. But yeah, anyway, I think he's going to be fine.
Aaron wants a quick opening day roster projection as of today. We've kind of been going through this as we've been reviewing the positions. Tyler Stephenson, I think, starts on the IL. Spencer Steer starts on the IL. That's going to bring you Austin Wynns, as we just talked about, I believe, unless there's some waiver wire surprise. And then from an outfield standpoint, we have it narrowed down to 3 choices, 2 of which are Hurtubise and Dunn. The third one, just by devil you know, was Will Benson, although neither one of us wanted that. So beyond that, it's the faces that we expected, right? CES, Gavin Lux, Matt McClain, Ellie De La Cruz, Jamer Candelario, Freychild, Friedel, Hayes. Those are your suspects to start opening day and see how they do, right? Did I miss anybody there? Trevino, we talked about him.
Trevino wins. Yeah, I mean your infield is set. I don't think there's going to be any surprises there between, CES, Candelario and Espinal and Lux and those guys. I think the only interesting thing will be if we are wrong and they decide to go with Will Benson. But honestly, there's like 3 guys that we're looking at for that last roster spot. And that's only if Spencer Steer hits the IL, because we keep hearing, soft, not reports, but soft quotes that are saying, oh yeah, he's looking good. He still has that opportunity. I did see a quote from Terry Francona where he was just like, he's chomping at the bit and I'm really happy about that, but we're going to take it slow, take it one day at a time. So I almost wonder if Terry Francona is leaning on him not being ready for opening day, but I don't know if that means that he hits the IL, because then I think he would have to miss like an entire week. So that'll be an intriguing thing to see. It could be that he's on the roster, he just doesn't play.
What about this? He's dealing with a shoulder that didn't seemingly impact his swing. It's more of fielding, throwing defensively. Yeah. So, you just make him the everyday DH for the first 3 weeks of the season? I could live with that as long as it's not going to set him back in his healing process. So there are worse outcomes than to have him just be your DH.
Especially without needing DH days for Tyler Stephenson, you could live with an everyday DH. But yeah, I definitely think they're waiting on him to throw before they make a decision. So we'll see. We'll see how those reports go.
Bob Miller weighs in on your ballpark rant, says that he's been to GABP, Riverfront, and Crosley, and GABP is by far his favorite. Not only stadium, but, Hall of Fame restaurants, view of the river, all the things. Look, I have a love for Riverfront Stadium that is nostalgic and it's not reasonable, Jeff. It's because I saw my first big league ball game there. I still remember, and you've heard Ken Miller and I talk about this. Yeah. Walking through that concourse the first time and the blinding green of the sun reflecting off that god awful AstroTurf that was Riverfront Stadium. Like,
right.
It's not reasonable at all the way that those of us that came up at Riverfront feel about Riverfront. Great American Ballpark is 10 times the stadium that Riverfront Stadium was. So from a Cincinnati standpoint, I never saw Crosley Field.
Shout out to Bob going to Crosley. I wish I could have went to Crosley.
I wish I had seen a game there. But as far as how Great American Ballpark ranks within the rest of baseball, been to a lot of stadiums, Jeff, and there are some stadiums that are still out there that there's no way they should be ranked ahead of it. This is, I think, just because whoever threw that column inch filler together that you were reading has probably never been to Great American Ballpark and has probably never been to half the stadiums they talked about.
It's either that or, like, I get it. There's sometimes you go to Frybox and they've ran out of ingredients. And when that happens, it really does mess with your day a little bit. I would say now go down to 50 West.
If you stop eating so much Frybox and leave some for the others, I think that'd be a nice little thing for you to do. Branch Brown is still in the chat. Branch says, wouldn't be surprised if Lux takes an outfield spot by June. That's interesting because we keep wondering exactly how they're going to handle Lux. I think Branch, it really depends on Spencer Steer. You only get one super utility for it to work for playing time. So it's either Lux or it's Steer. And I don't know what they're going to do with him. For Steer to have an everyday spot and not be the super utility, it means bad news someplace else. It means bad news at first base. It means bad news at third base. And then you're using Lux as a super utility. I don't know, Branch. I think you only get one of those guys.
I think steer is a part of the equation, but I think the biggest part of the equation is how does the Fairchild platoon work? Like if Jake Fraley does bounce back and if Stuart Fairchild just continues to be who Stuart Fairchild is, then right field is going to be fine, which means you leave Hayes in left. I don't see, like, I would definitely say that I'm much more concerned about right field than I am left field. And then if the concerns of right field are valid and they don't play very well, then Terry Francona may consider moving Hayes from left to right, and then you put Lux in left, because you won't put Lux in right. Like you want the better arm in right field, so Hayes would be there. But it just depends for me on the Fairchild platoon. I think that as long as TJ Friedl is healthy, TJ Friedl is going to hold down center field every day. As long as Austin Hayes is healthy, he's going to hold down left field every day. So what does Fairchild do in right field? That's for me what's going to be the biggest. And Lux is going to play every so often. I think that's why he's doing in spring training. He's going to rotate into the outfield every so often. But on like an everyday basis, I don't think that happens. But
Branch Brown. Branch Brown's been to many games at Riverfront. He's been to parking garages that were nicer. That's maybe a little harsh, but it's not that far off.
I definitely say that about Paycor.
There's an interesting Will Benson thing going on in the chat right now. That's resulted in a new hashtag, Believe in Benson. Honest Fan is also saying that all of Cincinnati wants Will Benson to stay. That's not true. Look, Jeff, I know you're the president of the Will Benson fan club. You were on the one-man pumper car of the hype train that nobody wanted to be on, and it just hasn't worked out. And I'm not necessarily ready to say total bust, never going to be anything, move on, cut him. But also he needs to do some extended time in Louisville and do well down there for a long period of time. And then if he gets an opportunity to come back up, has to earn the right to stay. I guess what I'm trying to say there, Jeff, is there's nothing he can do in Louisville that I'm going to be like, well, you got to make room for him now. You got to call him up. He figured it out. We've seen that. We've played that game before, not only with Will Benson, but with other guys. There are some dudes that are just quality 4A guys. And I don't know if that's Will Benson yet or not, but I know that unless there's some crazy thing that creates an opportunity for him, just because he's doing well in Louisville doesn't mean, oh, we got to call him up. That's what I'm trying to say.
And I think it's because we are Cincinnati folk that we feel the necessity to say this, but he's the captain of the personality team, for sure. Probably the coolest person on the team. But he also had a very significant negative WAR last year that you can't ignore. And I think that he is an injury away from major league playing time.
Let's move into a little Santiago Espinal conversation. Because he keeps feeling like the forgotten man to me, Jeff. I didn't talk about him when we talked about the 26-man roster, but he's going to be there. That was the name I was like, I'm forgetting somebody. It was Santiago Espinal.
I mentioned,
that's kind of a luxury of a guy to have as the forgotten man down there, right? He's going to get some time on the infield. I don't think he's going to start a lot of games. Do we see him in the outfield at all? Is Terry Francona going to run that back?
I don't think so. He's my prediction for opening day third baseman.
Really?
Glove first, baby. Yeah, before Jose Ramirez.
You just don't want to buy my bourbon. I'm looking at this.
I'm looking at this and I'm saying, like, here's the trend, right? Like history says this. Like the Indians, which they were called back then, played Lonnie Chisenhall at third base. Lonnie Chisenhall was not a good hitter. And Santiago Espinal, I think, is at the very least as good a hitter as Lonnie Chisenhall was. But Lonnie Chisenhall was a good glove. And I think that in the absence of a dude at that position, Terry Francona picks the better glove. He's a better glove than Jeimer Candelario is. So I think that is why, at least at the beginning of the season, we see that. And then whoever is the hot hand, he's going to play there at third base. So if it's Espinal, if it's Candy, if it's Lux, whoever it ends up being is going to get that playing time when they get hot. But I think Espinal gets the first crack.
All right. What's your opening day lineup? What is the rest of that infield look? What is the rest of that?
It aged wonderfully because I wrote that over at SI.com. But
if Santiago
injury to Tyler Stevenson
Espinal
messed that up.
if Santiago Espinal is your third baseman, where is Gavin Lux playing on opening day?
So let me pull this up. So Gavin Lux on the bench on opening day. In my
Crazy talk. That's crazy talk. There's no way. Gavin Lux is playing third base if it's not Jamer Candelario. Come on.
There we go. Okay, official lineup prediction. There we go. Top three. I don't even really think there's much of an argument here. TJ Friedel, center field, leading off. Matt McLean, second base, and batting second. Ellie De La Cruz, shortstop, batting third, which Terry Francona even said he's going to bat third. He told that to somebody. Forgetting who. Austin Hayes, left field, batting fourth. Gonna have to. This is the part I'm gonna have to change. Got Tyler Stevenson playing catcher, batting fifth. So I'm going to move that up. Jamer Candelario is going to be batting fifth and playing DH. Jake Fraley in right field, batting sixth. And Christian Encarnacion Strand at first base, batting seventh. Then I'll have Santiago Espinal at third base, batting eighth. And then Jose Trevino catching and batting ninth.
Yeah, Gavin Lux is not sitting on the bench to start opening day in Cincinnati. They're going to welcome him. I see you guys throwing. I see you guys throwing stats in the chat of on splits, and I don't care. It's opening day. It's a little bit different. Game 2, we can talk about the splits and the stats, but we're talking about opening day in Cincinnati, which gets handled a little different. And Gavin Lux is not going to be on the bench. There's no way that Santiago Espinal is getting the opening day start at third base. It's not happening.
You're supposed to agree with me 100% because
you are crazy.
I know what I'm talking about.
You are nuts. That is what I agree with. Good grief. All right, let's get back into this. Here you go, Jeff. A reality show. Chris wants all Jeff network. MLB needs to follow you around the ballpark.
That'd be fun.
There could be some social media that you know what, Chris,
TikTok.
we might can make something like that happen for you. We can have Jeff dancing around.
I've always wanted to make a foray into food TikTok, so we could do that with some fry box.
All right, let's get a couple more in, gang, and then we're gonna get out of here for the day. Appreciate you guys being here with us and doing the live show. Love doing the comment sections on the live show. It's kind of my favorite thing to do with you all talking Reds baseball. Let's get a couple more in. Talking about Lux Espinal platoon, a 115 OPS plus player. Well, that's fine, but not opening day. But I'm fine with that. It's the same. That's the same logic when we talk about Freychild, right, Jeff? Like you combine the guys and just straight platoon it and reap the benefits as long as everybody remains healthy. So
let's go with career splits. I'm not going to go with just last year. I'm going to go with career splits. You've got a TOPS plus, so splits relative to his overall production of 126 against lefties for Santiago Espinal. And you have a TOPS plus against righties for Gavin Lux at 110. So 115 might be pretty reasonable.
It's not a stretch.
Ooh, Gavin Lux against lefties. 57 OPS plus against lefties.
Don't care. It's opening day
for his career.
Don't care. Aaron checks in and says, "Will Hunter Green improve this year?" I think he has. I don't. He's not hit his ceiling. If that's the question you're asking, Aaron,
right?
He has room to be even better than he was. Is it going to be a leap like last year? No, but I expect improvement. And by improvement, I mean I expect more starts. I expect more innings, which is going to increase his strikeout total, which is going to do a lot of things. I expect that he's going to have a better year statistically this coming season than he did last season.
I think
the jump year over year is not going to be bigger, but there is room to grow.
You hit on the important thing. I think the improvement that we're all looking for from Hunter Green this year is hitting 30 starts and seeing, 175, 180 innings, something like that. It's tough nowadays to expect starting pitchers to go over 200 just because of the way starting pitchers are managed. And this is league wide. This isn't just a Reds thing. But and when it comes to managing starting pitching, there are a few people that I would say that I trust more than Derek Johnson. So I have no qualms about how they manage Hunter Green's workload. But the key will be for him longevity. And I think that he has prepared accordingly because he is one of the guys that are team all best shape of their lives whenever they entered Goodyear, because it was said by multiple people. They're like, oh my gosh, Hunter Green's ripped. He's got real little, a little pot belly. And I'm just saying observationally, I have no room to talk in that matter. I understand that. But I'm saying that fitness wise, Hunter Green looks like he is ready for that 30 start season. So that is going to be the improvement that I'm looking for from him, because I feel like his game took such a step forward last year that we're to the point that as far as like the rate stats and the counting stats go, all he needs to do is maintain that. So now can he bring the longevity stats up? And then we are talking about a guy that can be top 3 Cy Young. And I don't think that's a stretch to expect.
No, I agree. For the Cy Young comment, people are going to, push back on that a little bit, but I don't think that's a stretch. If Hunter Green continues to do the things that we're expecting him to do, he's definitely going to be in that conversation. He's going to be, if he does those things, Jeff, look for him to, when we saw Ellie De La Cruz start showing up on all the national graphics and being a push forward for a face of baseball. You'll see the same thing from Hunter Green. You'll see Major League Baseball, the entity, starting to promote Hunter a little more, which is going to get him more national attention, which will get more eyes on him, which will lead to more votes, and he'll be in the Cy Young conversation for sure. And let's
and we know the reason that he's getting overlooked. We understand why the national media overlooked. He's not dating Livy Dunn. So if he just goes and takes Livy Dunn from Paul Skeens, but we're in on him, man. He's getting one-on-one baseball cards. He's getting all of the attention.
How many times a week do you think she looks at him and says, how much longer do we have to be in Pittsburgh? How much longer do we have to be in Pittsburgh? I bet you at least 5 times a week.
Then he tries to hand her a Primanti Brothers sandwich, and she's like, no, what are you trying to do to me?
Exactly. Scott Campbell had asked a Dayton Dragons question. I'm not going to go down that road, Scott, but I do want to just briefly talk about the final exhibition game of the season that has Cincinnati Reds taking on those Dayton Dragons up at Dayton. And you're going to that, Jeff, right? You'll be up there. You're going to be in the press box covering that game.
Oh, yeah. Looking forward to it. Gonna be, I think we are talking about, I don't necessarily think it's the Dragons roster. I think it's like they're going to put a lot of the top prospects in a Dragons uniform and put them up against the major league team. It's going to be like a spring, this Sunday, they've got the Reds and the Brewers prospects in the breakout game going on. I think it's going to be like that, just against major league players. It's going to be a lot of fun. Something I wish they would do every single year.
Yeah, and it might be fun to I'm going to say it out loud so I remember to talk to you about it. It might be good to have a chat with our buddy Tom before that game happens. Tom Nichols, the voice of the Dragons. So might have him on, but I'm excited about that too. I think that's a great way to kind of wrap up spring training and also generate some excitement within the state. Dayton and their ballpark, it's easy to get in and out of. It's a great little ballpark. The fan base in Dayton has been great since day one. And there's lots of communities surrounding Dayton that have easy access to go check that out too. So I expect that ballpark will be full for this exhibition game. And that'll be kind of a good kickstart into opening day and into the season. So I'm definitely.
By the way, go get you a Dragon dog, really good foot-long hot dog there at the Dragon Stadium. Going to have some spicy stuff on it. And what, you think it's surprising that I know?
I'm surprised that you don't have a concession review feed on TikTok yet. And that is where we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for the day, gang. Thanks so much for making Locked On Reds your first and second and third and however many listens you gave us today. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate you that we're here live in the comment section, in the chat. Love talking Reds baseball with you. If you're watching this on the replay, get into the comment sections. Tell us what you think. Share your thoughts. We love reading those as well. We're getting close. We're getting close, gang. Less than 2 weeks away from opening day at Great American Ballpark. Jeff and I will both be there. Hope to see you there as well, either in the Dora or in the stadium. It's my favorite day of the year. It's a holiday. It should be a national holiday. But I digress. That's going to do it. We're going to keep gathering up the news, the information, the rumors, and the reports out of Goodyear. As we get closer to opening day, we're going to bring all that information back here and keep you locked on Reds every single day. I think I just gained 10 pounds listening to you talk about concession stands.
I think you just effectively doubled my content for my TikTok page.
I think so. God help us. God help us.
It's going to be a fun year. Woo!